When you think about religion in China, you think of Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, if you count that one as a religion, and folk religion. You probably don't think of Islam, though. But Muslims have been in China since the Tang Dynasty and have played an important role in China's economy, military, and other parts of its society. Beef noodle soup comes from the Hui Muslim people, but the emperor was never a Muslim. However, in the 14th century, as China was ruled by the Mongols, the country came close to having a Muslim emperor. In 1273, a child named Ananda was born, the eldest son of Mongala and his wife Putri. Mongala's father was Kublai Khan, who had founded the Yuan Dynasty 2 years earlier, and Ananda was beloved by his grandfather. Since Ananda was the grandson of Kublai Khan, that means that he was the great-great-grandson of Genghis Khan. Ananda will be the main character of this story. Kublai Khan was a Buddhist and gave his son Mongala a Buddhist name. Likewise, Mongala gave his son Ananda a Buddhist name, naming him after a famous disciple of the Buddha. Mongala was the Prince of Anshi, commanding a powerful army and ruling over much of western China, a place inhabited by many Muslims. This was a position that Ananda inherited after his father died in 1278. After the death of his father, he was raised by one of his guards, Mithar Hassan Aktachi, and his wife Zuleika, a Turkic Muslim couple. His upbringing must have influenced his decision to convert to Islam, though he did not do so until he was an adult. This was around the same time that another Mongol leader, Ghazan Khan of the Ilkhanate in Persia, converted to Islam. Many of Ananda's subordinates joined him in his new faith. In Ningxia, which is located within the territory ruled by Ananda, over 1/3 of the population is Muslim today. Compare that with China as a whole, which is about 2% Muslim. Ananda's new faith would put him at odds with his own family. In 1296, he was ordered to come to the imperial capital and then arrested by Emperor Temur Khan, who was his cousin, and told that he would only be released if he renounced Islam and returned to Buddhism. Though he did not abandon his faith, he was eventually released anyway. While he was the Prince of Anshi, he helped defeat an army of the Chagatai, another successor state to Genghis Khan's empire, which frequently clashed with the Yuan Dynasty. In 1307, Temur Khan died. The late Khan's chosen successor, his only son, had died the previous year. Temur's widow, Bulugan, wanted Ananda to become the new emperor and conspired with others to put him on the throne. However, a larger faction within the Yuan court supported Temur's nephew, Kulug. Bulugan had a very good reason to want Ananda to be the next Khan. Due to her political scheming to make her late son the heir to the Yuan throne, she had made many enemies, including Kulug. She was unsuccessful. Both Ananda and Bulugan were arrested and executed, and Kulug Khan became emperor of the Yuan dynasty. This ended the best chance for China to get a Muslim emperor, though after the Yuan dynasty was overthrown in China, descendants of Kublai Khan would continue to rule Mongolia until the 17th century, and some of those northern Yuan emperors were Muslims. What if Ananda had succeeded Temur instead of Kulug? Would China be a Muslim country today? I don't think so, and here's why. If Ananda rules for about 15 to 20 years, and that would be a very long reign for Yuan Dynasty standards. There will probably be a large portion of the Mongol elite that converts to Islam, strengthening the power of the religion in China. If there are a few generations of Muslim rulers in China, then more and more of the elite will embrace Islam, and that will trickle down to the general population. But it would be a long process, one that could easily be interrupted and reversed by the ascension of a non-Muslim Khan. So everything would have to go right for Ananda and his successors. Ananda had a son named Orug Temur who outlived him. But succession in the Yuan dynasty wasn't that simple, and succession crises were common. Orug Temur would likely see a challenge for the throne from another member of the royal family. And Orug's son, or whoever his preferred successor is, might be challenged for the throne, and so on. Even if China sees multiple generations of Muslim emperors, there's the issue of how long the Borjigin clan, the descendants of Genghis Khan, can continue to rule China. Because in real life, the Yuan dynasty didn't last very long. It was replaced by the Ming dynasty in 1368, though as I had mentioned earlier, there were some remnants of the Yuan dynasty that survived north of the Great Wall. This means that if we give Ananda Khan 20 years, which again is very generous for a Yuan emperor, he dies 41 years before the historical end of the Yuan dynasty. I don't know how long you can postpone the return of Han Chinese rule. The Manchu Qing dynasty managed to stay in power for nearly 3 centuries, but they were way more competent than the Yuan. So if Ananda becomes emperor, his long-term impacts on China probably aren't that great. But the Yuan dynasty did survive to the north of the Great Wall for a few more centuries after the establishment of the Ming dynasty in what's known as the Northern Yuan. This could eventually lead to Muslim majorities in Mongolia, Inner Mongolia, and the parts of Siberia that the Northern Yuan ruled over. Let's say that China eventually takes modern-day Inner Mongolia. This could lead to higher separatism in the region, or maybe not, because there are millions of Chinese Muslims who are proud to be Chinese. Culturally, Mongolia and Inner Mongolia would be closer to Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan. It's possible that a less orthodox version of Islam would be practiced in that region of the world, keeping Mongolia both culturally and geographically distant from the Middle East. In all likelihood, we'd see Islam become part of a Mongol cultural identity rather than a guiding principle for society. What I'm saying is that it would be more like Albania than Saudi Arabia. So in conclusion, if the Yuan dynasty had become Muslim, we probably wouldn't see a Muslim China, but we very well might see a Muslim Mongolia. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you stay tuned for the next video.